Hello friends, and welcome to the Joy of Miniatures Painting. This is our second project here on the channel. This is going to be a miniature for my D&D 5th edition game, Discordance Overflow. I talked about that briefly in the Purple Worm video, but as you can see, this is a more of an Asian-style dragon with the long snake body and the little legs. This is actually a Pathfinder miniature. I don't remember the specific name of it. I think it might have been an underworld dragon, something like that. The example mini they had on the box was very darkly painted, but this, for my purposes, is going to be an air dragon. So Discordance Overflow, the world that game is set in is not my normal campaign world. It is a world that is dominated by elemental forces. So in the center of the landmass, all of the elements are in balance with each other, so it's a very temperate, normal environment. But then as you move in different directions away from that center, the elements get more and more intense. To the north, the element of air is the most powerful, and so as you go farther north, the land just turns into this icy, windswept tundra with nothing else but, nothing but flat ground and snow for miles. As you go to the east, where the element of water is strongest, the land just slowly disappears. You get rivers running into into a shallow sea, and then as you go farther and farther, the islands disappear, and it's just nothing but a giant mass of water. To the south is earth, so the land turns from grassland into hills, into giant impassable mountains, and then to the west is fire. So you get, the temperate area turns into like an arid savanna, and then badlands, and then finally just this vast, endless desert. And at this point, it's not really spoiling anything for my players if they're watching, because they've already encountered one of these. They traveled to the elemental pool of water, had a nice little chat, and I think I'll go ahead and this will be the fourth of the dragons that I need to paint. So I think at the end of the video, I'll go ahead and pull out the other three. That way you can get a good look at all of them. Unfortunately, I painted those before I started this channel, so you don't get to see me do that. But we can paint this last one together here. So let's run over our paints real quick. I've got my same basic brushes I've been using, and again, just a variety pack I picked up at Walmart. You don't need fancy brushes to get started. Kind of the whole point of this channel is to show people that it's really not that difficult to begin starting miniatures painting if you want. And same thing with the paints. I use fairly basic paints that I just get at Walmart. In this case, we're going to be going very heavily into the metallics. So I've got a blue sapphire here, and then blue ice, or ice blue rather. I've got a pearlescent white, which is just good for adding like a little bit of a sheen to it. And then the last one, I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or not, but I at least have it out, is sterling silver. So we've got a couple things here. He also has like a little breath weapon that plugs into his mouth, so we're going to paint that as well. Translucent effects you have to be very careful with, though, if you want to keep the translucentness of it. So probably just do a very light coat over there to give it a little bit of splash of color. But we are going to start off with this blue sapphire, and I'm going to do a layering effect on this guy. So we're going to start off doing the blue sapphire over the entire body, get a nice solid dark base layer, and then we'll start layering some of the other colors on top of that. So let's start off with a decent sized brush, because we just need to get paint on plastic for right now. So go ahead and get this shaken up, tap it a little bit. Hopefully we won't have any paint built up around the top there to bubble up on us. Yeah, there we go. All right. I'm gonna try the paint over on this side, so hopefully maybe I can avoid hitting the camera. But yeah, let's just grab a hold of this guy and start working. So the Discordance Overflow game has been going for a little over a year now. It also meets every 2 weeks. So I've got 3 different games running. Okay, now I'm gonna have to put this over here because otherwise I'm gonna have to put the mini down and reach across, and yeah, so just be more efficient this way. So I've got 3 games I'm running at the moment. This one, which is 5th Ed D&D, and then I've got my Daggerheart game called Children of the Dark Star, and then a Draw Steel game, which has just started up recently. But each one of them runs every 2 weeks, so I'm not going crazy trying to keep up with everything. But Discordance Overflow has been going for about 2 years now. I think the head here is probably going to be the most difficult part, just because there's a lot of little finicky bits to try to get the paint down into. But the concept of the game that I pitched to the players, because when we first formed the group, I gave them 2 different campaign options to choose from, and I just did like a little spoiler, kind of a Star Wars crawl campaign pitch to them. And one was a pretty basic, D&D experience, because they've all played before, but it was a brand new group of us gathering together, so I didn't know what kind of stuff they were going to be into. And the other one, oh, come on, there's paint in there somewhere. Okay, I've used quite a bit of this sapphire, so I got to dip down farther to actually get to the paint. There we go. But Discordance Overflow is actually a campaign idea I've had in my head for a while. It's kind of a little more esoteric, so I wasn't sure if they were going to go for it. But as soon as I described it to them, they were all about it. So I'm actually going to get a chance to play out this concept. So they are all amnesiac. They are awakening. So they started the game awakening in medical tubes, basically like cryogenic freezing recovery tubes, kind of like a cross between a Bacta tank and like a cryostasis. So they do not remember, I should say, who they are. I mean, they remember their names and like their basic abilities. They all started at level 1. So they do not remember who they are beyond their name. They don't remember why they were in those tubes or who they used to be. Yeah, and for getting in little bits like that, you can just kind of jam the tip of the brush in there and it'll get the paint spread around, good enough to start off with at least. But the world around them is a fairly standard fantasy world, but it is in the ruins of a much grander, higher, or advanced civilization. So there's a lot of high-tech, kind of sci-fi stuff in ruins all around this fantasy world. Hang on one sec, I gotta get down into the little gaps here between his neck segments. So they wake up in these tubes. They bust out of them, start exploring the area around them. They find that they're in some kind of old ruined facility on the side of a hill. And they find some gear nearby, which is high tech. It's medieval style weapons and armor, but with a sort of Magitech sci-fi aesthetic to it. So kind of not quite cyberpunk, but kind of in that same vein there. Like, your sword's got a channel running up the middle where where it's glowing when it's powered on, that kind of thing. So they find some gear, they re-equip themselves, and they run into these small creatures that appear all twisted and tumorous, like their whole body is just covered with sort of an angry bruise color, and just riddled with these, this corruption, these bulging tumors coming out of them. They take care of those without too much difficulty, and they make their way out into the world. And they approach. As they're leaving this place, they can see down the side of the hill there is a town not far away. So they decide to go investigate that, since it's the only sign of civilization. The other thing that they can see when they come out is to the north, from where they are, is a massive storm, like just horizon to horizon. This raging storm off in the distance to the north, which they don't know what that's about yet. Well, now they do, but at this point in the game, they don't. I'm recapping over a year's worth of campaign here, so I'm probably gonna miss some stuff. I'm gonna try to avoid spoiling anything if any of them are watching. But they travel out of the hills down towards this town they can see, and they're not sure what's going on here, what these people are like, even who any of them are. So they sneak into the edge of town, and one of the players is playing a druid, and she decides that she is going to stealth in and cast Speak with Animals and start talking to some of the local critters and see if she can get an idea of what this place is like, which originated the term donkey vibe check, which has become a bit of a running joke in the group now, because the first animal she came upon was a donkey out at one of the outlying farms. But the donkey seemed pretty happy. He didn't mind his lot in life. Seemed to enjoy the people there, so they decided it was probably safe to approach. So they head into town, and they find it is just a small village called Argenton. But they are currently dealing with a situation because the silver mine that the town is built around has recently been attacked by something that came up from the tunnels. Getting that guy's hand is going to be a bit of a trick here, so we're just gonna jam some paint down in there and work around it for now. Yeah, something has been attacking from the tunnels underneath their city. Well, city is a strong word. Underneath their village. A couple of miners have gone missing, and they're kind of at their wits' end for what to do. So the player characters, being fairly upstanding folks, at least they think they are, because they haven't, they're still quite amnesiac at this point. They volunteer to go down into the tunnels and see if they can rescue some of these folks. Let's see what we got here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Although this is just the base layer, so if we end up missing a couple of little nooks and crannies here, it's probably not going to be a big deal. That blue's already come out really nice. But they head down into the mines, and they wander for a little bit, as there's no immediate signs of threats, but they also don't see any of the people. So they work their way down. They end up getting attacked by a swarm of bats that they disturbed, which ended up not being a combat because the druid once again cast Speak with Animals. She's actually made extremely good use of that spell. I love it when players do stuff I don't expect them to do, and they're clever about it. Really, I really appreciate having to think on my feet. And so, but yeah, she talks to the bats, and finds out that they are agitated because of what they just refer to as intruders, because Speak with Animals allows you to speak with the critters, but they're still not, they're not human intelligence. They can't really communicate human concepts all that well. So yeah, the bats just complain about intruders in the tunnels below. So they kind of get an idea of where to go and manage to avoid a combat at the same time. All right, finding a place to grip this thing is starting to become an issue. So I think I'm going to hit the tip of this tail real quick just to get that done. But they continue down into the tunnels, and they, at one point, here we go. So they find that the miners, they get farther down in the tunnels, and they find the mining tunnels lead into a worked metal facility of some kind. It looks like the miners accidentally busted into whatever it was. And I realize now as I'm saying that is a trope I use somewhat frequently in my D&D game, or my RPG games, because a similar thing was just encountered by my Daggerheart group. But these were, the Daggerheart group encountered that just last week, and this was well over a year ago for the D&D group. Some pain down there on its haunches. Yeah, we may have to wait and take a second stab at this thing to finish this base coat, because I'm not sure where I'm going to be gripping it to paint this middle. Let me try to get as much of it as I can on this first go, though. But anyway, they find the entrance to this ancient facility. Well, it's not that ancient, as they will soon find out. And they go in, and they are attacked by a group of people with these strange creatures latched onto their faces. They realize that these people are probably the miners they're here to save. So rather than just kill them outright, they manage to subdue a couple of them. They try to grapple them and rip those creatures off their faces. And the creatures are these large bat-like entities, but instead of like a body and a face, they have just this single giant eye in the center of them. And one of them actually latched onto the player and started basically trying to hypnotize her. So they realized that that's what happened to the people down here, because as soon as they freed them from those creatures, they went back to normal. They were, weakened and extremely confused as to what was going on, but they were at least back in control of themselves. So as they press further on into this facility, they encounter they see ahead of them this huge quivering mass of just like flesh and eyeballs that's like slowly blorping around the room they're approaching. Doesn't seem to take notice of them, but it is quite disgusting. And they decide, you know what? Oh, well, yeah, see, that paint is still damp. You know what? We probably shouldn't risk fighting that thing. So, again, very cleverly, they had discovered some mining explosives up in the tunnels ahead, and they grabbed a couple of them for future use. Explosions are always a good thing to have in your back pocket. And I had put them there without any particular intent of what they were going to do with them. I just knew that they would be useful things to have. Is that dry enough where I can grab it? Not particularly. Well, we're just going to continue adding to the drop cloth here. This thing's going to be quite a tapestry here before too long. Let me just grab it long enough to flip it over so I can paint that last little bit there. But yeah, so they took one of the mining explosives that they had borrowed, and they just, lit it and chucked it out in front of this thing, and it reacted to the movement and sort of blorped over it, and then sat there for a second, and then just kind of and exploded. So they managed to completely bypass that fight, again, by being clever. And then they continued on past that room and found a set of stairs leading down. And that is where we will pick up later, because I think we've got this front layer, this bottom layer, I should say, of the sapphire pretty well done. So I'm going to leave that to dry. And we will, oh, I forgot to grab a paper towel. I'll have to do that for next time. And we'll get back to this later. All right, I'll hop back on here for a quick segment. I think I want to do a second coat of that sapphire here because it's not quite as dark as I wanted it to be. And also I missed a couple of spots here. Yeah, there's one right there and one up here by the tail. So I'm just going to grab that sapphire blue again and go over it a second time. I've also realized that I don't think I'm going to be able to summarize the entire Discordance Overflow game in this video, because I think this is going to be a much shorter project than the Purple Worm. At least I'm hoping, because that one was pretty lengthy. And then the second reason is that that game's been going on a lot longer than the, okay, we're just going to start at the tail and work down, rather than try to sort out what I need to hit and what I haven't yet. But yeah, the Discordance Overflow game's been going for a bit over a year now. It started in January 24, yeah, so a year and about 4 months. So there's been a lot going on in that game. But I can at least finish summarizing their little starting adventure, and then I'll try to get a basic overview without getting too far into detail, just because there's too much detail to get into. But they had gone down into the mines beneath Argenton and found the missing miners with these weird mind-controlled bats attached to their faces, which they managed to free most of them. And as they got to the bottom into this facility, they discovered a large chamber with a huge tank in it, like killer whale tank at SeaWorld kind of scale. That was mostly buried under rubble, but inside it was filled with this purple mist and a large tentacled creature that they couldn't really see much of because it was so obscured. And they found more of the miners under control that appeared to be trying to excavate the tank. So they fought them, they subdued them, removed the mind control bats, and then they took one look at the creature in that tank and decided, nope, not today. We got the people we came for. We are going to get out of here. So they returned to the surface with, there we go. Forgot the sapphire's a little farther down in there. They returned back to Argenton with the people they rescued, explained the situation. They were greeted as heroes, obviously. And during the celebration, I got some more space in there I gotta fill in. during the celebration, they were able to find out a little bit more about what was going on in the world. Okay, yeah, that's already looking better with that second coat. So this is going to be the base layer, and then we're going to do some other lighter layers over top of it. I want to make sure this one is nice and solid. That way we have a good dark base to work off of. That'll still show through, even with other layers on top of it. If you're gonna layer, you always want to put the darkest on the bottom. Otherwise, you'll probably just obliterate the whole color. If you start off with a light layer and then put a dark layer over top of it. So anyway, boy, that spot on that tail there really just doesn't want to get painted, does it? Take a second here and try to sock some more paint down in there between his backside and the inside curve of that tail. But anyway, so they found out that the world has been in this kind of state for about the last 70 years or so. Ever since what people refer to as the fall, which is just when the previous civilization came crashing down for reasons that no one is sure of. No one who's alive, no one is still alive who was alive at the time, and no real solid information got passed down. Someone's really sure what happened or why everything is in the state it's in. Ooh, that was too much. Alright, well, we'll try to make use of it. But yeah, so the fall was about 70 years ago. No one knows what happened or why it happened. But now there's, everyone's just sort of living in the ruins of that previous civilization. And there's all manner of strange creatures, aberrations and whatnot, roaming the wilderness. They found out those weird little tumor creatures that I should have started with the head, because now I have nowhere to hold this. And this is going to require a lot more effort than just painting the tail from this angle. So let's hold on by the nose there and spin him around real quick. But those weird tumor creatures they encountered earlier are called wretched, and they are all over the place. No one knows where they came from or what their deal is. It's just kind of a hazard of the world now. Let's see. Spin this guy back around. Drag him by the nose. Seems like a bad idea overall. And then after that, they found out the general. Also, they discovered that storm, that big storm across the horizon that I mentioned, is surrounding a city called Harmony. That storm has been like that for as long as anyone can remember, so it's at least from the fall. And when they found out about Harmony, that triggered a flashback for one of them, the cleric, if I remember correctly. Throughout the game, they've been getting flashbacks to their previous lives every time they encounter some facet of it. So they've been slowly piecing back together who they were. But this was the first one of those, I believe. And the cleric remembered, Dimension of Harmony, remembered piloting a little shuttlecraft, twisting and diving through the towers and the skyscrapers of Harmony, being shot at. So that was their first clue into what their role was during that time. And then they found that the nearest larger settlement was directly to the north along the road, which the road that's been referred to as just this wide metal rail about 15 feet across. But the nearest large settlement was called Magton, and it was straight north along the road. It was a sort of a trade crossroads area. So they decided they were going to go investigate that. And that is where we'll pick up next time, because I've got my second coat on here, and I think it's looking a lot better already. So we will come back later. All right, we're back. I'm just going to do a quick little segment here because the light's not that great today. It's a little cloudy outside. But I want to do a quick little thing. I want to paint this guy's claws and possibly his teeth. Oh, those teeth are tiny, so I'm not sure how well that's going to work. I want to do those in silver, I think. And the silver's a little thin, so I'm definitely going to need 2 coats. So I might as well get the first one in now. So, get that started. See that? Get that neat little bubble there. We're not going to need the bottle for this. I think I just need the cap. We're going to need a very small brush for this. There we go. Okay, we might need the bottle for that. There's not much on the cap. Yeah, that's not going to work. Oop, too much. There we go. Get that out of the way. Yeah, that's gonna definitely need more than 1 coat before it looks decent. I'm not sure what it is about this silver paint, but I've run into this issue before with it being so thin. I don't know if it's just the bottle I have, or if that's normal for this color, or what. But it's fine. It's easy enough to work around. Just have to plan appropriately. I think this is going to be a fairly quick little segment here, so I don't know how much of the recap I can get back into. Oh gosh, that's way too much. Silver's farther up than I think it is. Well, that curled up claw is going to be a little tricky, isn't it? Alright, let's see if we can get in from this side. Yeah, there we go. Now, for the real trick, I'll be painting that claw without hitting the body too much. Yep, that's just going to be a little awkward. Well, it's one of those instances where having a smaller brush would actually be useful. Oh yeah, oh, no, you stay put. Let's see if we can get in there with that paper towel and clear some of that excess. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this is requiring a little bit more focus, but I think we just discussed, they found out about Magton and decided to head that direction. But along the way, yeah, I guess that's probably going to be about the best we can hope for on a first coat here, since this paint is so thin. Definitely going to take more than one. But yeah, that's already all. Well, no, yeah, okay, I missed one over there. Missed the thumb up near his body, so that's going to have to be a little careful. And unless that's going to be significantly shinier when it dries, I don't think it's actually going to give us much of an effect, but we will find out. Alright, now, I'm going to try to mess with those teeth. Those are very small. No, I think we're going to leave that for now, because we still have to do some other layers over the head, so the teeth might be the very last thing we end up doing. I'm going to put him down for a second. There we go, that'll do. Let those claws dry. I also want to use the silver on this breath effect coming out of him. Pretty sure this is supposed to be like a fireball or something, but since this is an air dragon, I think I want this to be like a sort of a concentrated wind blast, which means we could just leave it clear like this, but let's spruce it up a little bit, give it something here. Now with translucent effects, you got to be really careful, because if you put too much paint on there, you will just absolutely obliterate that, and it'll just look opaque like the rest of them. So what we're gonna do here, and in this case, the silver being thin will actually help us with that, I believe. So I'm gonna pick the side you want the color to be the strongest on, and then you're gonna paint away from that. So that way the paint sort of naturally thins out as you get down the length of it. And I think I want the silver to be the most intense up here at the tip. So we're just gonna slap some on there and draw it down. And you see that effect is very, very subtle. I'm not even sure if the camera's picking it up properly, but I'm hoping that when we're done, it'll give it a bit of a glint. And if you end up with any excess, just keep those downward strokes, and it'll sort of draw it out into the other parts where you haven't gotten it. And again, we want to be very, very light with this, because we want to keep that translucentness. Alright, I'm thinking that'll probably work. We'll see what that ends up looking like. Well, I don't really have a good place to set this while it dries. Guess I'll just brace it up against the body here, and yeah, that should do. All right, so nice quick segment. We'll get that dried, and then we'll come back later for the next coats. All right, let's see how that silver turned out. I actually took a look at it earlier, and it wasn't looking that great. You can see a little bit of gradation, a little bit of a difference on the breath weapon here. Not a whole lot. I mean, it's a very subtle effect, and that was part of the point, but might be a little too subtle. It's kind of noticeable. The claws, though, were a bit of a disappointment. That paint was extremely thin. It would take at least one more coat, maybe two, to even be noticeable on those. But that's okay. Did a little experiment. It kind of worked. It kind of didn't. But for now, we're going to move on and do a little bit more on the body here, because that sapphire with the second coat is looking really good. So we got a nice solid dark base layer. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing some highlights over top of it. So the overall plan is we've got this really nice dark base layer. And then I'm going to do like a medium second layer with this ice blue. And then I'm going to do a very, very light third layer with this pearlescent white. And I think that's going to give us a really nice dappled effect. So let's get this started up. Doesn't look like I've opened that one in a while. It might be a little messed up, but we're going to find out. Oh no, that looks just fine. Yeah, see, that's a really nice icy blue. And I think let's not knock the paint over. To start with, I'm just going to use the cap here, because I don't think I want a tremendous amount, because this guy is very small overall, especially compared to that purple worm. So doesn't need nearly as much paint to get the same effect. Yeah, that should do. All right, we're going to start at the head and work down. Try to just drag the paint across the body to get kind of that dappled effect I'm looking at. I'm going to try to start with to maybe leave these belly scales just the sapphire blue and just do the highlights on the upper body here, and we'll see how that looks. And if it's too much of a contrast, I might go back through and add a little bit more. So let's get started here. Just a tiny little bit of paint here on the tips of the bristles. And then we're just gonna start doing some nice long strokes here to take that paint and have it wash down. Let's get a little bit more on the tip here. You see, you don't need much at all to get this kind of effect that we're going for. And we don't want to be too thorough. We don't want to get down in all the nooks and crannies, because we want some of that darker blue showing through to give the sort of layered effect that we're looking for. Oh, also, I realized I kind of left you hanging previously, because I said I wasn't going to talk about, or I wasn't going to do the recap on that last segment because it was such a short one. And then I started to and didn't actually tell you anything. Fortunately, from your perspective, it's only been a couple of minutes. So, they decided to go to Magton, but along the way, they noticed a tower off on the horizon, just a little ways off the road. They decided they were going to go check that out. And this is where I actually learned not to underestimate this party, because as I said, none of them were new players, but this was a new group, so I wasn't really sure what to expect from them. And I had this tower planned out, and I assumed they were going to be able to gain access to it, and then because it's a ruin from before the fall, so it's a high-tech building. So they were going to be able to gain access through the front door, and then they were going to go in, the door was going to close behind them, lock them in, and they were going to have to go through this little mini dungeon to get themselves back out. But they got the front door open, and the very first thing they did was one of them grabbed a big heavy log and dragged it into the doorway to keep it from closing, which I was impressed. I didn't quite know what to expect from these folks yet, and they proved to be very, very clever and resourceful, which I appreciate in a group. And they gained access. I think I forgot to mention this earlier. So when they woke up in their tubes, they were all in matching uniforms. Basically, these dark blue jumpsuits with like silver striping on the seams, and they also all had a bracer. Oh gosh, I almost painted my camera there. This high-tech bracer on their left arm that they could access and would try to talk to them, but it was very garbled and broken. It was very janky to start with. And that was about all it could do to begin with. But so they used that in order to access this tower, to open the door, and then it tried to close behind them, but they outsmarted me and kept themselves from being locked in. But they ended up running the dungeon anyway, so no harm, no foul. Yeah, I'm already really liking that dabbled effect. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it's got a nice contrast. So anyway, they get into this tower, and they discover that it is locked down, and there are these strange infected creatures inside. Not like the wretched that they encountered before. These are human-sized and appear sort of withered and dried out almost. But they are wearing, they are wearing similar jumpsuits to the players. Get in here on his haunches real quick. So they fight a couple of them. They poke around, and the tower is nothing too big. It's like maybe 30 by 30. It's just a simple square tower. And they find a little bunk room and like a kitchen area, and then there's an elevator leading up to the top of the tower, but it's offline at the moment. All the lights inside are off as well, but their bracers have little flashlights built into them. And then there's a stairwell leading down, but it's locked with a security code that they managed to override. I've got a neat little puzzle I like to deploy every now and then, and it's usually a pretty good success. So I'll roll a couple of d6s behind the screen, anywhere from like 4 to 6, depending on how complex I want the lock to be, to just to generate a random number, or a random set of numbers, I should say. And then I'll give them an equal number of d6s to try to solve the combination. And so they arrange the d6s however they want, and then I'll tell them how many of the numbers are correct and also how many of them are in the right spot. There's an old board game that I took that idea from. I think it's just called Codebreaker. Codebreaker Mastermind, something like that. But it's a really simple idea. It's very easy to deploy, and it's always been a big hit. Like there's always at least one player in the group that goes for that kind of thing. And in this group, there's actually several. So they greatly enjoy when I deploy puzzles and riddles for them, and I enjoy using those things. So it's just been a really good group overall. Okay, how's that belly looking? I do think I like the contrast there of keeping the sapphire on the belly and having this lighter blue over top. I know normally the belly is supposed to be a lighter color, but I don't think that looks bad. It's definitely a nice contrast. All right, now comes the tricky part, because I'm back on the tail here and I'm running out of places to hold on to this thing. Oh, but anyway, So they cracked the door code, and they. Oh, actually, before I move on there, a nice variant that I have started to employ on that code because, I mean, it's an interesting little puzzle. But I do enjoy adding a bit of a stake to it. I'll deploy that that kind of code as part of a combat, or like have have some kind of guardian appear when they start messing with the lock, so that they're simultaneously trying to fight that and pop the door open. And it just takes it takes an action to try the door combination. So someone is basically out of the combat for the duration. But if you have a player that enjoys those kinds of puzzles, chances are they're not going to mind. Fortunately, the top, since we're doing such a light coat here, the top part is dry enough already that I can hang on to it while I'm painting the tail. But anyway, so they pop the coat on that. They head down into the depths of the tower, where they find basically like not an engine room necessarily, but like I mean, it's a power plant, so I guess calling it an engine room is accurate. It just sounds odd when it's not like a ship. Where they discover more of those weird desiccated folks, and they access the power center, like the mainframe. They get the power for the tower up and running again, which allows them to return upstairs and get the elevator to the top of the tower running. And I think, now we still got a little bit on that tail over here we can fill in. But they get up to the top of the tower, and they access the computer systems up there, and they plug their bracers in, and it does a because the bracer's been telling them in its sort of halting, stuttering speech that it's capable of, that it requires repairs. So they get up to the computer system here, they plug their bracers in. It basically does a reboot, and their bracers just starts talking to them in a normal tone of voice. It's fixed now. And it gives them navigational data from this tower, so I gave them a map of the immediate area. And normally I do hand-drawn maps, but for this campaign I'm doing hexographer. So they're very, very fancy, sort of advanced-looking hex maps, which I thought fit the concept a little bit more. But they unlocked a map of the area, and also they unlocked a teleport pad. So they gained access to a teleport network, but so far that was the only location they had, so they couldn't go anywhere. But now they have that, so as they journey on further, they can start finding other teleport pads and connecting to the network, which they have. As I said, this campaign's been going for almost a year and a half at this point. So they've got teleportation networks all over the place. Now they're zipping back and forth, confusing the heck out of NPCs, keeping me on my toes because I'm never sure which direction they're gonna go. All right, I think we're good for that layer. So here's just for contrast, there's that sapphire blue on the base, and then you can see we got that nice icy blue over top, and that's just got a really good sheen to it. And you can see that because it's a lighter layer, and we kind of did it haphazardly, there's still a lot of that sapphire blue showing through on the top layer. So honestly, I'm not sure. I still want to do a little bit with that white later on. Is this dry enough that we can just go for it? Yeah, I think it is. Well, might as well. So this might be getting towards the end of this video. So I'm going to use a smaller brush for this. Mostly because that bigger brush still has the icy blue paint on it, and I don't want to mix my paints up. Yeah, that should be fine. So this is going to be a much lighter layer. I'm just going to do some highlights on here. So that was the first 2 or 3 sessions, I think. So I think the tower was a session by itself, and getting to Argenton and then clearing out the mines, I think, was a 2-session affair. Oh, that's actually a little bit more than I wanted. All right, so once again, we're gonna start up here at the head, and we're just gonna put some streaks on there. Don't want the paint to settle too much, so we gotta keep it moving, and even that was probably a little bit more than I wanted. But we want to make sure that we preserve the lower colors, because this is just, all right, see, I just got to be a little bit more careful about getting paint on there, because this is just supposed to be highlights. Yeah, even that was a little bit more than I wanted. Okay. Gotta focus on being more careful here. And yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna leave that sapphire alone on the belly. That looks good, and it really lets that color show through. But yeah, so there's been way too much going on in that game to be able to summarize the whole thing in this video. So I suppose I'll try to hit the major story points they've uncovered thus far. So they discovered that about approximately 74 years ago, that was when the fall happened. But like everyone knows that the thing they've discovered is that coinciding with that was an incident that the computer systems refer to as the discordance, because they've encountered several artificial intelligences still up and active, including one that refers to itself as the prime designate, that insists that they need to return the codex to Harmony. And they discovered that the codex that it's referring to is this metal sphere about the size of a grapefruit that they had with them when they woke up. They had no idea what it was to start with. But when they heard it called the codex, I think the druid ended up getting the flashback of removing it from a mainframe under fire. So like they were being attacked while they were trying to take this thing. They still don't know why they took it or why it's important, but the prime designate has been quite insistent that they do their duty, return the codex to Harmony. Also, that they should maintain their current position because units have been dispatched to retrieve them. He's told them that a couple times, and they haven't listened to him yet. I doubt they're going to start anytime soon. Although they have discovered that units are in fact looking for them, because they've doubled back a couple times to places where they've been, and NPCs that remembered them said, "Hey, there was these weird flying metal creatures that came here looking for you a little while ago," but they haven't caught up with the players yet. Unfortunately, for the prime designate, the players do not have the codex anymore. They picked a fight with a pirate named Captain Vandal, whose actual name is Admiral Kurai, and he was alive during the fall, and has since been transformed into a tentacle-faced creature who commands a ship, like a pre-fall technology ship, that has been the scourge of the eastern oceans for as long as anyone can remember at this point. But they picked a fight with him and lost rather badly. But he recognized them as being wardens, and so he did not kill them. He took them prisoner, had a nice little conversation with them, and they have decided that they're willing to hear him out for the moment and see what he has to say. So he's been providing them some information. And that was actually what led them. Oh, heck. Well, all right, I'm gonna have to do some touch-up on the base there with the, I got a little overzealous with the white, and now I've got to redo the sapphire on that belly there. But yeah, so he's actually the reason that they encountered the first of the elemental dragons, which I will bring out and show you here before I finish this video. Not this video, I think it's gonna be the next segment, because I don't wanna, I mean, I guess it would only be like a minute or so of dead air to go grab those real quick. I'll wait till this is completely done, that way I can show them all together. I think that'll be cool. Because I had 3 of them already ready to go. And this was the final one that needed to be painted. Alright, so there's that. That's fixed now, I think. Make sure we get all the... might as well just throw a little extra on there while we're here. But yeah, so they discovered that the storm around Harmony is being caused by the elemental dragons, and that Harmony is on lockdown underneath this force bubble. No one knows what's going on in Harmony at this point. Even Admiral Kurai doesn't know. But the storm around Harmony is being generated by the elemental dragons trying to break in. And they are currently trying to determine what the purpose of the elemental dragons is. The dragons are still around. What the purpose of the elemental dragons is, their relationship with Harmony, and more importantly, their relationship with the wardens, and what the warden's job was exactly. As I said, they're starting to wonder if they were in fact the bad guys. No spoilers. That is looking pretty sick, actually. I really like that multi-layered effect we got with the paints. And this is why layering is so much fun. You see, we do the dark layer first, and then we do the lighter layers over top, and it shows through a lot nicer. Whereas if you did a dark layer or a dark color over a lighter color, it would likely just obliterate it. But here we get all these cool little dapples where the paint's thinner or thicker in certain places, and some places one color is showing through, some places another color is showing through. I think that's gonna look really good. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with those claws. I might take another swipe at them with the silver. Well, you know what? Oh, well, that's... Yeah, I think we got another small brush here. We can just keep going. We have a lot of brushes to wash after this. Let's see if this silver's in a better mood today. Oh, pardon me for one moment. Hydration is important. All right. Yeah, I don't know what makes this silver so runny, but it is super liquid. So we're just gonna take another crack at these real quick. And I think I'll let this all dry properly for a little bit, and then I'll come back with the other elemental dragons, and I can show you those, and we'll see. I mean, this thing is basically finished. I don't know how well this is gonna work on his claws, but this is just detail work at this point. The primary project is done and ready for play. I don't think they're going to be getting to this one for a while, though. Now that they kind of know what's going on, they have a plan. And the air dragon is probably last on the itinerary, unless they change their minds, which they've done before. I actually thought they were heading north for a bit, and then they remembered this dungeon they had passed up out in the ocean, and doubled back to go deal with that, and that led to all manner of shenanigans, including them blowing up the dungeon. But I guess that's going to be a story to wait for another video, because it's way too complicated to explain right now. I'm actually considering doing campaign diaries as a separate thing. Probably not even with a video, just audio recording, because there's not really a visual component there. But I don't know how well that would work on YouTube, so I might do that like it's like a Patreon thing. I don't know. I'm considering ways of trying to monetize this. I don't know how good YouTube ad revenues are, and I don't like the idea of putting ads on my videos anyway, just because the interruption's always obnoxious when I'm watching somebody's YouTube video. All right, so we're gonna give that another shot on those claws with the silver, and then let's flip this guy over to keep the claws up off the paper. And we'll be back in just a minute from your perspective. And once these are dry, and I'll have the other dragons out to show them off. All right, and we're back. Two things I wanted to apologize for real quick. I did not realize how sniffly I've been in this video. I've been fighting a cold the last couple days, so I do apologize if that was annoying. And the second thing is I realized I mentioned the discordance and didn't actually explain what it was, because I got off on a tangent there, and I knocked my dragon over. So the discordance was an extraplanar entity suddenly manifesting in the world. And the repercussions from that, they're still trying to determine exactly what happened. They have been able to uncover, though, sort of the events leading up to it. Scientists, before the fall, were experimenting with opening portals into other realms. They were originally trying to draw energy through them, but then they discovered that they could open the portals big enough to begin bringing biological specimens through, so they started doing that, because why wouldn't they? And that's about all they've managed to uncover so far. They've encountered some of these organisms in containment of various sorts, and some of which are broken out of containment. In fact, I had a rather lengthy conversation with one named Benthu. But anyway, that was just covering what I forgot to mention last time. But I went ahead and glued in the breath weapon in the base here, so you can see sort of the finished product. I think we're just gonna take the L on those claws, because that silver is not wanting to be cooperative. But then we got some highlights on there, so it's better than nothing. But yeah, the overall product here is just fantastic. I think you can see got all those different colors interacting. very shimmery and cool looking. I think this is going to be a very good air dragon. And that little loop-to-loop here, I love this. That was why I chose this one specifically. I like the sort of sinewyiness, not sinewyiness. That's not the word I'm looking for. Sinuousness is probably what I was going for. He's a snake. We'll go with that. But he just looks very appropriate for an elemental air dragon. And I've got these other ones here that I'll go ahead and bring out so we can see the whole lineup. So this is the water dragon. See, he's got those cool little tendrils coming off his face there. And I did the underside in that same sapphire color, so that's probably why that bottle was so low. And then it's got some aqua there. And then the top layer, I think what I did, if I remember correctly, was a layer of sapphire and then a light layer of the aqua over it to give him sort of that more green. Yeah, this aqua here I used on his underside. This is actually the one they've encountered already. They traveled to the elemental pool of water and had a chat with this guy. Not a talk so much, more like an empathic mind meld kind of thing. And they managed to convince it to cease its assault on Harmony. Now they're going to go around to the other elemental pools and try to meet those dragons and do the same. And hopefully, once the storm is dissipated, they'll be able to actually get into Harmony. And here's where we're getting into more spoiler territory. If any of my players are watching that and don't want to be too too well informed, this is the fire dragon. As you can see, did a good blend of colors there. So I did just a basic red on the body. This belly here, I did that toasted marshmallow first, the same as I used on the purple worm, and then I did a light gold coat over it, the same gold that I used for the claws and the teeth and that horn. And then the wings I did with a top layer of a particular paint called Color Shift, and I'll show you those here in a second. But that, I think that's just a red layer and then the Color Shift over top of it. And you see you get that really nice glinty gold effect. And then this guy, this is the Earth Dragon, and I am a huge fan of how this one turned out. And I'm particularly fond of it because this is only 2 paints. And this is a great example of how you can get really cool effects without needing a whole lot of complication. Because, oh yeah, that's a good angle. You see all the spikes coming down his back. So this is just 2 paints. These are those Color Shift ones I mentioned a second ago. And again, these are Walmart. I think they might have been $4 a piece, so they're a little pricier compared to the stuff I have been using, but still fairly cheap. This is Black Flash and Plum Flash, and I mean, you see the effect it gives. Like this is just that Black Flash. It's got that dark base with that gold glint to it, and then the same for the Plum Flash. It's got that purple, but then when the light hits it, you see those little gold specks in there, and it's just a really cool effect with not a lot of effort, and I love that. It's one of the things I try to emphasize on this channel is you don't really need a bunch of fancy paints or a bunch of different techniques and layering and all that to get really cool effects. Like I think this was 1, maybe 2 layers of the Black Flash and then 2 layers of that plum over the spikes there. And you see how cool this turned out. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. These guys have been on the, well, like I said, the Discordance Overflow campaign has been something I've been kicking around for a while, so I've been sort of slowly putting together the dragons for it. And now I finally have the 4th one, and it turned out really good, and you watched me paint it, so you could see how simple that really was. Just some layering and some very light brushing techniques. There wasn't anything fancy. Super basic brushes, super basic paints, and you could see from start to finish how to achieve this effect. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope hopefully it'll inspire you to go out and do some painting of your own. If you did enjoy this, please like, subscribe, drop a comment below, share the video. All hail the algorithm, and I will see you next time.